Hey, family. How is everyone doing? Ekabo Ibe, Bawani, Yoruba. Welcome, family. How's things? That's in the Yoruba tongue. And I know you may say, why are you doing that? You got Ghanaian flags behind you. Well, it's both of my bloodline. I actually, am learning both of the languages as well. Well, I'm actually learning Swahili too. So I could say to you Habari, Habari Gani, what's the news? And it's not just a phrase that is given to us during Kwanzaa as well. So thank you so much for tuning in to the Lion's Den. Well, those who are only about that life, I welcome in or dare to come in. So this is a program where it's geared towards the mind, mastering the mind. And I believe that we have to go beyond talking about just our culture. We have to get to the root of our problem, and the roots of our problem starts in the mind. We live the way that we think. And this is a phrase that I always utilize. It's not just a cliche to me. It is a fact. And the reason why I believe in dealing with the mind is because of accurate information, and the implementation of it has made me into a new creation. I once too was a menace to society. Okay, I'm not proud of what I used to be, but I'm proud of the fact that I can say used to. Okay, that I'm no longer a menace to society. And I was a person who was a troublemaker. Okay, I was the one, unfortunately, causing the problems in our community. I was the drug dealer. I was the gangster. I was the one stealing. I was the one causing problems in our community and making it a terrible place to live for myself, my family members, and my friends. And again, I'm not proud of that. But what I am grateful for is someone who loved the hell up out of me. Okay, someone who shared wisdom with me in the spirit of love and began to speak to me and began to pour in my life positive information and began to challenge my way of thinking. I greatly appreciate the police officer who looked just like us, who arrested me when I had got in trouble for disturbing the peace, resisting arrest, okay, and also an assault on 3 police officers, okay, all in one night. And I was on my way to jail at that time, facing time. And on my way there, the police officer began to talk to me. And I'm so grateful that he truly was a man of vision, because he didn't see me in the state that I was in. He seen what I am to become at that time. And he told me, he said, young man, he said, there's something about you. He said, you really should not be living this life. He said, there's something special about you. And me at that time being a drug dealer, being a gangster, I was thinking like, what is it that you see so special about me? I'm like, man, I'm a drug dealer, I'm a gangster. Now, I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking. Because who's going to incriminate themselves like that, right? Not me. I wasn't going to do it. So I sat up there, I looked at him kind of funny. And, he looked at me and he said, listen, he said, you have a bright future ahead of you. He said, young man, there's something about you that leads me to believe, and I'm gonna tell you something, and the police officer that I had fought looked at him crazy too. And this is a true story. This actually happened. Okay, because when he said that, that police officer looked at him like, he said, Sarge. You know what I'm saying? He said, be quiet. And he kept those police officers because they were getting ready to billy club me. Okay, they pulled out their batons and they was getting ready to go to work on me because I was fighting them. You know, I was body slamming them and I was so full of rage and so full of anger, you know. And I used my wits the wrong way too when I was in the streets. I was using my smarts, you know, to do wrong instead of doing the right thing. And a lot of my influence too was because of what I was listening to, inclusive with the people that I was hanging around. So let me just say this right here, that we have to take some sense of ownership in our villages in regards to why our villages are in the state that it's in. And the reason why I say this because it's partially our fault because we embrace toxic information and then we expect for our lives not to be toxic. And when we embrace toxic information, it of course intoxicates us, and it corrupts us, and it creates toxic people who in turn create a toxic environment. An environment that is not healthy for our elders, our peers, or the younger generation. And so I listen to riotous and reckless lyrics, what we know today as gangster rap. Yes, I was listening to niggas with attitude, okay? I was listening to Eazy-E. I was listening to Ghetto Boys, okay? I was listening to a group when I was younger, because I'm 43 years old. So I was listening to a group called Onyx. And so the lyrical content had an influence on my weak mind. Okay, and I was influenced by those lyrics because before we went to go put in work in the streets, we would listen to those type of lyrics. It's no different than when I was in church. I recall when it was praise time, we played praise music, right? When it's worship time, we played worship music. Before I was sexually involved with a woman, I listened to love-making music. So, with that being said, lyrics inclusive with music sets a certain atmosphere. I've never been to an event where they was playing gangster rap and something went well. Like there was a club in Rochester, New York where they played that music and it got all bad. Nothing good came out of that, right? When I was at the club and it was full of a bunch of Bloods when I was at the club and they started playing the gangster rap, people started leaving because they knew what was to come of listening to the lyrical content and what atmosphere that was going to be set, because there was a bunch of Bloods in there, and then they started throwing up their, blood set signs and what have you. You understand? So people left because they want no parts of it. Those who wanted peace instead of war, they exited. Why? Because that was not the type of lifestyle that they lived, right? They came there to have a good time. They didn't come there to fight. You understand? They came there to party, to enjoy the ladies, to enjoy their drink, vice versa for the females. They didn't come there for that. And so every time, from my experience, that they ever played that type of music, it never went well. Any club I know that played that type, it never went well. Unfortunately, it was a whole bunch of shootings and murders. And it just wasn't good for the atmosphere and for us as young people at that time, because, of course, all these things happened when I was an adolescent. Okay? Not in my adult years, except for the situation where they start playing, the blood, songs and what have you, and people exited. At that time, I was roughly around in my late 30s, and the people that was in my peer group, they was like, nah, I'm out of here. Let's focus on what is played on the radio stations. Let's focus on what's played on the television. And let's even look at what goes viral on social media outlets. A lot of these things are negative that unfortunately our people gravitate to. Okay? If you notice, whenever someone starts speaking positive or we start talking about things that empower us, it's no fault of our own to a degree that we're not receptive to positivity. The reason why a lot of us are negative is because, unfortunately, we have been programmed to be people that subscribe to negative energy. Okay? And because of us allowing these things into our atmosphere, that which we have allowed into our atmosphere is now destroying us. Unbeknownst to us, when we open up the door to negativity, we reap what we sow. When I grew up in the hood, I'm from Rochester, New York. I was born and raised in Rochester, New York. I grew up on the two worst sides of the city there. I grew up on the east side and on the west side. Okay? On the east side, I grew up off Joseph Ave, where they had the Nasty Boys at, where Hudson was at, where they had a gang over there called the Hudson Hardheads and the Stick-Up Kids, right? Then I lived on the west side, where they had the biggest, roughest, toughest gangs over there called the G-Boys, Genesee Street Boys. Then they had the Black Mob over there. Then they had Thurston Road Troopers over there. You understand? And over where I lived at, off of Joseph Ave, they had the Nasty Boys over there, right? And so what I seen was, when fights kicked off, instead of people running away from the fights, people running to the fights. This is how you can see that we've been programmed to run to destruction instead of away from destruction. When I was standing in the crowd, this is a true story, I almost got shot twice point blank range for sticking around trouble. Instead of me fleeing the scene, I stayed on the scene, right? Calling myself keeping it real. And this so-called keeping it real to the street life almost got me buried twice as a teenager. And the only reason why I'm here today is because of divine intervention. And this is the reason why I tell people who don't believe in the supernatural realm that it's not spookism, because I had a 9mm pointed in my face one night, and on another night I had a Smith & Wesson pointed straight in my face twice, and each side hated each other, but they never made me choose sides. You understand me? So the reason why I believe in divine intervention, anybody from the hood and anybody from the streets knows what I'm talking about. All right? Who does that? Who walks away from a situation like that where they don't make you choose sides? Okay, each time I walked away with my life. I escaped death twice. You understand? And I was almost murdered twice because of who I was affiliated with and who I was hanging around with and the type of life that I was living. So because I was sowing death, I was reaping death. My life was almost snuffed out numerous times because that's what I was sowing, being a drug dealer, sowing poison, sowing death. You know what I'm saying? Stealing. Okay? Just living a life of corruption. So I was reaping what I was sowing. Walking down the street, people I didn't even know chasing me down the street. Because of the life that I was living. Okay? But then you have innocent people like the 15-year-old minister back in Rochester, New York, who was getting ready to walk in his house, and his name unfortunately escapes me because it was so many years ago. You understand? I was in my young teenage years during that time. And I'll never forget, I was at the church where they held a conference there at Pentecostal Miracle Deliverance Center Church in Rochester, New York, overseen by Bishop Willie Smith Jr. And they hosted it there. And I never forget when I heard the story and the pain of the mother when she was talking about how she was standing at the door getting ready to welcome her son, and her son was gunned down in front of her. Now, he was a 15-year-old preacher who had done nothing, but because of the corruption of the heart of man, caused a mother to experience her 15-year-old son getting murdered, who was a preacher who was bringing life, but his life was taken away because of the corrupt way of living of man. They were shooting at somebody else. The person was running, and then the young man, unfortunately, his life was caught in the crossfire. My best friend got into a fight with a robber at the age of 14 years old, and his brains was blew out. He lost his life at 14 years old over greed, over the greedy spirit. Beware of covetous, because life does not consist in abundance of things that one has. What profiteth a man to gain the world and lose his soul? And what can a man give in exchange for his soul? I seen my friend brother drop like a bag of potatoes in front of me after he got shot. My friend mother was so strung out on drugs to where they didn't have any food in the house. So at his young age, because of his parents being strung out on drugs, he started hustling because they didn't have any money. So my friend at like 12 years old, 13 years old, started hustling just so he can eat. I had a friend when I was selling marijuana who found out that I was starting to get customers and accumulating in a certain area in school when I was in high school. And then he turned on me because I started getting that money. And a friend turned into an enemy just that quick over the love of money. Him and I almost got into a shootout in the hallway in the school. We almost went from a fight to literally getting ready to go into shooting a gun over greed, over the love of money. Now see this lifestyle that's being presented to our youth because of what I experienced when I went to the juvenile detention centers after my mindset was transformed and I listened to these young men and I looked at these young men. I seen a younger Ahmaud. And I asked them a question. I said, who in here listens to gangster rap? Guess what? All of them raised their hand. So I'm a mentor and I mentor young men from the ages of 7 through 17. I'm a part of New Game Movement. It's a mentorship program that was started by former drug dealers and gangsters. Some were, some weren't, but majority of them were. And majority of them did time. Majority of them was big time drug dealers down in South Florida. Okay? And we came together. We came together with a curriculum. A curriculum that consists of conflict resolution. Teaching our young men how to be men of chivalry. Teaching them about economics. Teaching them about their culture. Teaching them about spirituality. Teaching them how to treat a woman. This is the organization that I was a part of. And when we went to these juvenile detention centers and I asked these questions because I had to do an analysis. And as we all know, you know, when you do an analysis, you're gathering information, you're gathering up data. And I started doing this research. I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to do a research on the influence of gangster rap. I'm going to do an analysis. And every juvenile detention center I go to, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to ask, who in here listens to gangster rap? And to no surprise to me, all of them did. Every juvenile detention center I went to, every last one of those young men in there listening to gangster rap. All of them. When we did our meetings with the youth, because the mothers and the fathers would bring their children to the program, I asked the same question. Who in here listens to gangster rap? All of them lifted up their hands. When I ask the question about a certain gangster rapper, who heard of them before, who heard their music before, every last one of them raised their hand up in the air. I'm talking about even the females. I'm a motivational speaker, and because of my life being transformed, I went to the OIC program. It's a program down in South Florida for teenagers who may have dropped out of school and they went down the wrong path, and it was for them to get their GED, and also from there they was able to graduate, and then from there they was able to move on to actually taking collegiate courses. And it also provided them with jobs at the same time and taught them a trade. When I went there and I asked the question, the same situation, the same scenario. And matter of fact, it was Brother Wayne Weeks, who was a part of the OIC program, South Florida. Okay, he was the one who invited me. Okay. And so I talked to the young people and I started getting this analysis from them and getting feedback from them. And some of them, they were going through at home, parents arguing, gun violence, people being rioters, people fighting. They grew up in single parent homes, or either their parents were present, but it was like they wasn't there. Instead of us rejecting what destroys us, our people have been programmed to embrace destruction. We have been programmed to hate ourselves because the teaching in history is not our history. It's not beneficial for us at all. Our youth are taught to champion racist heroes in history. They don't know about Thomas Sankara. They don't know about Julius Nyerere. They don't know about Queen Nzinga. They don't know about Assata Shakur. But they do know about racist public figures that are championed, like George Washington, who did nothing to liberate slaves, who owned slaves. But they don't know about George Washington Carver. They know about Benjamin Franklin, but they don't know about Benjamin Banneker. So what I'm seeing here is, like Carter G. Woodson said, I'm seeing the miseducation of our people, and we've been programmed to be troublemakers. And now, unfortunately, we have inside trouble and we have outside trouble. We have created a weapon of mass destruction called gangster rap. And we, as elders in the community, have allowed the enemy to infiltrate. We have championed the owners of BET like there's someone to celebrate. They are on all these programs and they're championed because they became billionaires, but who is ever going to say anything about the content that they allowed to be played on BET? What about the gangster rappers who they allowed to be played on BET? When is anybody ever going to say anything about these radio programs that allow gangster rappers to come on there, and then in the same breath, they bring on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Let me tell you the reason why a lot of our people do this. You know why? Because they love money. See, it's greed. A part of the reason why we're in the state that we're in is because of greed. Our people, unfortunately, has sold themselves out. We have sold our souls for $1. We love money more than we love ourselves. And I'm talking about individually, and I'm talking about us as a collective. I'm seeing a lot of so-called conscious people becoming commercial. And now they're trying to figure out all these various topics. They're talking about stuff that don't even pertain to the conscious awareness of the African man or woman and child. They're talking about everything else other than disseminating information that is accurate, and from the implementation of that accurate information will bring about transformation that will make us into new creations and that will bring a wholesome environment to our communities. Queen Mary said, greed, and ignorance. Queen Mary said, we are not, nor did we create gangster rap. We don't mass produce and distribute it. We didn't create the conditions that create the content either. Well, Queen, you know, I'm glad you said that. And the reality is that we did create gangster rap. And some of us do mass produce it because you have Bad Boy. Bad Boy was started by Sean Diddy Combs. Sean Diddy Combs put down Biggie Smalls. Okay? Sean Diddy Combs is the one who started Bad Boy Records, who put down people like Big L and Jay-Z. When Jay-Z, before Jay-Z became the conscious person we know today, he was with Bad Boy. Okay? And so he was the one who allowed that content to be put on those records and to be sold. So it's equally the responsibility of our people and the colonizer. Because we do create those conditions that we live in, because we are the ones who take the drugs into our communities, and we're the ones who take the guns, and we're the ones who's shooting each other, and we're the ones who's robbing each other. And here's the reason why I said this. I want you to think about a homeless man that walks up to your car and never not one time pull out a gun to take what's yours. They'll ask you, they won't take it. Right? I want you to think about the homeless person who eat out of a trash can and who sleeps under a bridge and makes a tent out in the open and has to urinate and defecate out in the open And that same person will not come steal from you or rob you or try to kill you over what you have. They'll ask you. Or they'll have up a sign said, we'll work for food. So what we have here is a mindset. What we have here is character. Why am I saying this? I'm a former drug dealing gangster, and we have friends around us who didn't succumb to selling drugs. We have friends around us who didn't succumb to being gangsters. So why didn't they do that? Why did the rest of my friends and I, why do we sell drugs? See, I'm not going to ever run away from the realization that Ahmad had a choice to be a drug dealer and Ahmad had a choice to be a gangster. Because see, I was working at McDonald's at the same time I was hustling. You understand? But it was because of the greed, and it was because of me hungering after having a bunch of money, okay? And me loving materialistic things more than me loving myself, more than me loving myself, meaning myself individually and us as a collective. Ahmad chose to start selling drugs to get the fast money so he can get the money quick and he can have the flashy clothes and drive the nice cars and have the nice ladies like the other drug dealers. No drug dealer alive did not have friends around them that did not hustle like they did. I come straight from the streets. Okay, you talking to a man who his mother was a drug dealer, who his grandfather was a drug dealer, okay? Who his grandfather brought drugs all the way from Florida, all the way up to New York, upstate New York to New York City, you understand? Who had uncles that hustled, who had aunties that hustled, right? But those same people, the same person that I'm talking about, those individuals now are pastors, okay? The ones I'm talking about now are pastors who used to sell cocaine, right? So they made a choice to start hustling and they made a choice to stop hustling. So we cannot negate the fact that all of us, let the truth be told, are still left with a choice to participate in the corruption and the furtherance of corruption and destroying our people as the next man. Because I made a conscious decision to lay down the drugs, to lay down the gang violence, okay? I made the choice to stop living the life that I was living. So I chose to stop living that way. So check this out. Check this out. Who remember about those girls over at Columbine High School? And you know what, Queen? I'm glad you said that. And I love Sister Mary because she have her opinion. I love that, man. She one of my sisters that's part of the Black Liberation Movement. You know what I'm saying? And I love hearing her point. And she's absolutely correct. What she said is, she said, I understand that we have a responsibility. No way in heaven or hell could or would those drugs or guns in our community be in our community without the white men who use black men to get them in there. And I don't disagree with that. See, I'm not refuting that. What I'm saying is that we have a choice to participate in these activities. This is what I'm saying. I'm never going to justify somebody's choice. Okay? So I understand what the Queen is saying, and I just want everybody to hear, you know what I'm saying, her viewpoint, and I don't disagree with that. My point I'm making today is we have a choice to get into these things or not. This is my point. Okay? This is what I'm making today. All right? Roland Martin is a proof of that you can choose to, beg for a position, or you can go create your own. Roland Martin started Roland Martin Unfiltered. On TV One, they cut off his program. What did Roland Martin do? Roland Martin didn't say, oh, okay, Mr. Racist man, I'm going to succumb to, your ideology, and I'm going to stop talking about, the corruption of this government, okay, so I can get hired and get me a job on CNN or Fox or ABC or NBC. This is what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we have a choice to suffer and fight our way out, okay? Just like I stopped doing what I was doing and I came off of welfare, okay? And I became a full-time, entrepreneur because of the choices that I made, and I seen that I didn't have to live a corrupt life in order for me to live the so-called good life. This is what I'm talking about. Okay? Roland Martin started his own news broadcast with the support of the community. Okay? And what I'm saying is, like brothers and sisters on the Breakfast Club, okay? And my man Sway, okay? As much as I love Sway and much as I love my brothers and sisters on the Breakfast Club, what I'm saying is you bringing on the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and then after you bring the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on, then after that you bring it on gangsters. Okay? You bringing on bona fide gangsters who are now gangster rapping like YG. Okay? Who is a blood. Okay? Who calls our women's bitches and glorifies the fact that he teaches our men to call our women bitches. This is what I'm talking about, family. Okay? This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they have enough followers to branch off just like Roland Martin did. Okay? How he branched off and started his own thing. Okay? Because see, we preach about this, start your own. All right? But the truth of the matter is they don't do it because they love the money too much. Hear what I'm saying. Okay? Because Amar's not just talking. You understand? I got friends in the industry. Okay? I was in the industry. Okay? I wasn't on the mainstream industry. But I have witnesses that would tell you in Jacksonville, North Carolina, Foyer Entertainment was one of the top, entertainment businesses in North Carolina. This is a fact. I'm telling you that we brought down Waka Flocka, who is a blood. You understand? So when I'm talking, I'm not talking just to talk, family. Okay, I was one of the managers of Foyer Entertainment. You understand? I was bringing talent to the owner, who we know as Dempsey, and anybody who know about Foyer Entertainment in Jacksonville, North Carolina, know that Dempsey, he was from Rochester, New York, just like me. He started Foyer Entertainment along with some other friends, and we was bringing bloods down there. You understand? So I'm not just talking. And we was getting ready to bring Yo Gotti down there to Jacksonville too. Okay? I was a corrupt person. Okay? I loved money more than I loved myself or my people. I'm not just talking, family. I'm talking about I lost friends in the game, you understand? I'm telling you what I know. Okay? I'm not talking like one of these clowns out here, these fake gangsters out here who going in the studio and who rapping and never put no work in a day in their life. I'm talking about one who started a gang in Rochester, New York with my friends took the game up to Niagara Falls, New York. I had Niagara Falls, New York so bad in my school, the middle school I went to, they had our school on the news. And me, my cousin, and my homeboys was the one who did that. The teachers was crying in Niagara Falls, New York, the school I went to, crying and wondering what was going on. It's because me, my cousin, all right, and my uncle at the time, okay, and my friend, okay, had started a gang, and we started tearing that school up. All right? So I'm telling you what I know. I've been in the industry and I hung around real G's. I'm telling you what I know. I know former gangsters who preachers now, who preach, you know what I'm saying, the gospel, just like Malcolm X. Malcolm X made a choice. He was a street brother too at one time. He made a choice too. So what I'm saying is that we got to make a choice to do better. We as a people don't have to tolerate these things. Listen, when Luke came out, did those Caucasian people like what Luke was doing? What did they do? What did those Caucasian people do? They bound together to ban Luke in the USA. So what I'm saying is, we know the social ills that we're dealing with in our communities. We know the corruption that's going on in the communities. So why are we not fighting against gangster rap being aired? We know that's our young people problem. They look up to these men. They glorify these men. They want to be like these men, just like I did when I was younger. And modern day gangster rappers, guess who they was influenced by? Okay, even Chingy would tell you, Chingy even said that Eazy-E influenced him. You understand? Nas was influenced by Biggie. Biggie taught the 10 crack commandments, you understand? He was teaching people how to make drugs. Check the record, man. Check the record. Then you had other people like Big L. Big L life was taken out. You know what I'm saying? What happened to Tupac before Tupac died? Tupac became corrupt at the end. Okay? Unfortunately, at the end, before our brother left here, unfortunately, our brother had became corrupt. And that's when that big old East Coast and West Coast battle came out, and Biggie, and Tupac went on there thinking that Biggie made that song, Who Shot You? Okay, it got back to Tupac, and this is a historical fact. The word got back to Tupac, and Biggie had already put that song out before, you know what I'm saying, the shooting of Tupac. Pac thought that Biggie was talking about him. You understand? Then Pac came out with the song, you know what I'm saying, talking about, you know what I'm saying, he F Biggie's wife and all this other stuff like that. Start saying F the East Side. You know what I'm saying? They start beefing. Okay? Then you had Suge Knight getting on there, start talking about Puff Daddy, talking about, oh, Puff Daddy, he be singing all in the videos, he be doing all this. If you don't want somebody who gonna be dancing and singing all in your videos, oh, come over to Death Row. And then they start telling people from over in the East Coast to come over to Death Row because they was getting ready to start a Death Row East. Was it a white man involved in that? Yeah, it was to a degree. But who was fueling that stuff? Our people started getting caught up in it. So it was a tag team effort. You understand? It was a tag team effort of our people continuously pushing a bunch of foolishness because we've been programmed to be that way. I'm speaking facts. I'm not telling you something that's not factual. I'm speaking facts. It is a historical fact that when they start allowing gangster rap and all this corruption, all right, to be aired, and of course we had violence before gangster rap. Duh. You understand? This we know, right? I'm only saying it for people who always want to argue that point. We already know that. We already know violence and drugs and stuff was already, I know that. But when they allow gangster rap to come into play, it intensified. It intensified the destruction of our people. Right. But sis, you good because you have a right to express yourself. Okay, I don't want you to take me the wrong way, sis. I'm not attacking you. All right? I don't want you to take me the wrong way because I know we still getting to know each other. You family. Okay? Again, like I said, people still have a choice to do those things though. You understand what I'm saying? And I hear what you're saying, but I'm never going to agree because everybody have a choice to do whatever they're doing. Okay? For instance, like my wife. Okay, my wife didn't go on a strip pole to feed her family when she was struggling to take care of her kids, her children. Okay, so why? You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to ever play patty cake and baker's man with us as people. I'm not going to do it. Okay, the truth is I had a choice to hustle. That's the bottom line. My other friends around me was in the same circumstances, but they chose not to do it. They chose to struggle and to fight and to do what they needed to do in order for them to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And that's the bottom line. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is we act like as if though people don't have a choice. Although my friend parents were on drugs and what have you, I had friends who would go cut grass, who would go collect bottles. You understand what I'm saying? So they made a choice and we all lived in the same neighborhood. I have friends who choose to skip class and not to go to school, right? To not get their education, right? But then you had other friends who chose not to do that. And now my friends are teachers, literally. My good friend Bukika, I love that sister. I'm so proud of her. We all grew up in the same hood. Okay? But now she's successful and she's a teacher. I have friends now I have a friend that's a professor now. Okay? A professor. Him and my good friend, Anthony Calvin. You know what I'm saying? Principal. He's a principal. I was in the Marine Corps with his brother, Dwayne. Dwayne grew up in the same hood as I did. And now Dwayne has a master's degree. And now he's a teacher in theology at a college. So what am I saying? I'm saying that he grew up in the same hood. They all grew up in the same hood. But the difference is the choices. And we have a choice. You understand what I'm saying? This is all that I'm saying. So we got to stop pacifying, you know what I'm saying, our choices that we make and stop defending you know what I'm saying, the corruption of our community as if though we don't have a choice, because going to the store, buying alcohol is a choice. Going to the store and buying cigarettes is a choice. Getting high is a choice. Okay, so let's stop playing these games. Everybody have a choice on how they handle their situations. And that's just reality. So the topic of this discussion is who's really the troublemaker. It's on both parts. It's on both parts. Okay? We choose to allow these things to be aired. I personally only seen like a handful of our people fighting against gangster rap. Let me just keep it real. Most of the people who I hear, they always justifying it. Because they trying to be on the hip hop artist side and they want to get invited on their programs and things of this nature. Or they don't want to make people mad. Or they don't want to feel like, oh, I don't want nobody to feel like I'm judging them. Listen, I was a hustler. So just because I was a hustler doesn't mean that was right. No, it doesn't. I was a drug dealer. Do you think I'm going to sit up here and pacify another drug dealer? And I was a gangster too. So you think I'm going to sit up here and pacify that? No, I'm not. And here's where the proof is in the pudding is at. And let me get back to the Columbine High School, right? Now, those girls at Columbine High School, those was Christian girls. Christian girls. And I'm getting ready to dive in on something right now. Okay? Even the Christians over in Sudan, they were beheaded because they wouldn't renounce Christ. Those two girls at Columbine High School, they had a gun put to their head according to all the witnesses, and the boys that killed them told them to renounce Christ. They refused to announce Christ and they killed them. So did they not have a choice? They was facing death with a gun to their head. And a lot of people say this all the time. Oh, nobody put a gun to your head and made you do it. Listen. There's plenty of people who had guns to their head, even our ancestors, who was facing guns, who was facing imprisonment, who was bombed, just like Mama Pan Africa, a part of the Move 9, who survived the Philadelphia bombing. They tried to kill her and she still haven't stopped. She had a choice. She could have tapped out, but she didn't. Bobby Seale, the same thing. He's still doing speaking engagements. Huey P. Newton, before he transitioned, he was still fighting, even though they tried to kill him. And they killed his counterparts. He still stayed in the revolution, even though he knew he was facing death. So the point that I'm making here today, family, is this right here. We choose the life that we live. You can make a choice to fight. And we start ridding these things out of our community. We start ridding ourselves of these problems. Or we can make a choice to not fight. And this issue continues to germinate. And the corruption will continue to germinate until we start holding our own accountable. And so what I'm talking about is our accountability, because we're the ones who urinate in our neighborhoods. Okay? We're the ones who selling the drugs in our neighborhoods. We're the ones who making the choice we have to choose, we choosing our poison. We choose our poison. In certain cases. We choose to get drunk to handle our problems. We choose to get high to handle our problems. Okay? We choose to resort to violence to handle our problems. Okay? We choose to continue to work for these radio stations and to allow these things continue to be aired, okay? And we continue to play them, and we like to say, well, I don't have no choice in the matter. Negro, yes, you do. Just like I have a choice as a business owner to be about everybody or to be about just us. Synergetic Network Group LLC could be for everybody or it could be for just us. But I made a conscientious choice to do business with our own. I could have started an organization instead of El Kelbalan Union Alliance for just everybody or just us. For everybody or just us. I could have done that, but I chose not to do that. I could make a choice as a businessman to dress in European clothes, to do the transactions that we did for us to buy our houses. Okay? I could have made that choice to do that, but I chose not to because I refused to compromise. I could have made a choice being the owner of this program, you understand, to get on here and just sing Kumbaya all the time and to never deal with our social ills and to just motivate everybody all the time and overlook what the real social problems really is that's going on in our communities. You understand? I could have got on here and, tell everybody, don't worry, be happy all the time. But instead, I chose to come on here and make a choice to bring information, accurate information, whereby the implementation of that information will bring about transformation that will make us into a new creation. And also, this will tie us back into our African spirituality. Okay? This program is to deliver minds. And we can never ever set anybody free by playing patty cake baker's man. We're not going to get nowhere like that. Now, I come humbly before you today with this information. And I ask you humbly in love to consider what's being said. Okay? We have to fight against anything that is corrupting our people, regardless of who it's coming from. Even if they look like us, we need to fight against it. And see, this is what I'm saying. We have to start holding each other accountable, and there has to start being some accountability instead of all this fame seeking. People have become so commercial, it's sickening to my stomach, man. It's sickening to my stomach. I promise you, it literally makes me nauseous. Makes me want to vomit. Because people have become so commercial. People getting on there talking about 6ix9ine. Man, what do 6ix9ine, man, what? Talking about 6ix9ine, what is that doing for our people? What is that doing for our people, 6ix9ine being a snitch? Okay, riddle me this. Why are we talking about this on a conscious program? We're wasting precious time with this foolishness. We must start teaching information that's going to challenge our people to not remain the same. We have to start teaching teachings that's going to make us uncomfortable, that's going to make us angry sometime. Okay, that's going to cause us to lose friends and followers and subscribers. We have to get to that point where we love so much that we're truly willing to pay the cost, even being misunderstood periodically. That's going to happen too. So again, I thank everybody for tuning in. And again, the question is, who really is the troublemaker? And we have to really look at ourselves and just be honest. We have trouble coming from both sides. And so we have to deal with both arenas. Okay, we get trouble from the European too, because whenever you start fighting against Eurocentric ideologies, they want to lessen your followership, your viewership. But yet you have the freedom of speech. Well, they killed the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Fred Hampton over that same freedom of speech that they say that we're supposed to have. They took out the Black Panther Party. They killed a lot of our ancestors. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to speak out against these things. We have a right to say what curriculum we want in our schools. We have a right. We have a right to hold a government accountable that's taxing us for Medicaid, but they're saying there's no Medicaid. Taxing us for Social Security, but yet saying, oh, we don't have enough money for Social Security. What you doing with the money then? They're taxing us, and some taxes, depending on what state you're in, because, you know, certain taxes they tax you on that goes towards the schools and everything like this. But we have a right to hold them accountable by why we have poor reading material. Look at our books, they're falling apart. Where's the art supplies at for the schools? Look at the upkeeping of the grounds of the schools. It's called accountability. That's what it's called. When they say we the people, then guess what? We the people then. That's what it should be. In there it says we have a right to vote. Well, they should stop suppressing voters' rights then. Why do they have guns pulled on us at the voting booths? Huh? Why is it that we're still fighting against discrimination then? Why are we still fighting against discrimination at the bank system? Why do we majority of the time have to start our own? You know why? Because they want to give us what we were owed. There's going to be some accountability, man. As long as I'm alive, and it is what it is. Whatever come what may. I have to be willing to pay that price to suffer for liberation of our people. Okay? They stole our land down in Florida, Rosewood, Florida, and then they tried to sell it back to us. They did the same thing in Greenwood after they bombed it. They took it over after they bombed us in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And you expect for me to sit here and be quiet? I'm not a monk. I'm not at a monastery. I'm not going to ignore what's really going on in this world. I'm going to say it the way it is, and that's just the bottom line. I'm going to talk about our failures, and I'm going to talk about the failure of the colonizer too. I'm going to talk about what the colonizer is doing, and I'm going to talk about what we're doing to ourselves. I'm not a biased person. Okay? I keep it real here in the Lion's Den. Okay? And again, this is for those who are really about that life. And if you're really about this life, then continue to follow this program, continue to share this program. Some people are too shook to share the program because they're scared they're going to get fired. Or they're too religious, but they sneak and watch the program though. Afraid, you know what I'm saying, to go public with their stance. I'm not. And it is what it is with me. We have to get to the point where we care more about our freedom like our ancestors did, who we praise so much, okay? We have to get to the point where we care more about the liberation of our people than we care about anything else. And until we do that, we're going to stay in the condition that we're in. So I thank everybody for tuning in today. Peace, love, and power. I love you. I agree to disagree. I love my good sister Mary. And I thank you so much, Sister Mary, MC, my good sister, that's part of the Black Liberation Movement. Thank you so much for providing your feedback. Please continue to come on, sis. I love this because, you know, I always tell people this, and I will continue to say this. We don't have to agree on everything. We can still get along and still labor with each other. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want nobody to think, I don't want her to think, anybody else to think that I'm attacking her, I'm upset with her, because I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I love my sister. She put her life down on the line, literally. Literally, she put her life down on the line for our people. So I have nothing but the utmost respect for our queen. Okay? So I love you all. Hey, cousin, how you doing, cousin? Sharon Johnson. Love you, family. Thank you for tuning in. My big brother Jeff, thank you for tuning in. Yvonne Simpson, thank you for tuning in. Samaj L. Kelly, thank you for tuning in. Ramona. My good brother Dean OK. My sister, Nikisha Gilead. That's my sister-in-law. Love you, sis. My mentee, Reginald Orr, CEO of Kingdom Works Orr. Love you, bro. My big brother, Sean Ali, the master teacher of health. Hey, y'all want to check him out, man. He passed some real good information. Samaj L. Kelly said, all praises due and give thanks to the Most High for your ability to wakusu. Wake up, clean up, stand up. Asheo. And raise the frequency and rise above your lower self. Ashe. All right, family, be blessed. Love y'all.